Check, test one, two, check, test one, two.
Welcome. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Albrecht?
Here?
Mr. Brown? Have I not told him to stop yet? Dr. Hall? Mrs. Roop?
Here.
Mr. Teray? Mrs. Galbraith is here. Mrs. Gasparo?
Here. Would you please stand and remain standing as our Crete Monee NJ ROTC presents the colors?
Ready, cut, right, face, forward, march. Squat, up. Clear, hold, left, face. Breathe in, arm. Order, arm. Ready, cut. Right, face. Forward, march. To the rear, march.
You may be seated. Mr. Albrecht, would you read the mission statement, please?
Our mission statement: to ensure that every child is challenged to reach his or her full potential academically, socially, and emotionally as they grow and develop into thoughtful, productive, and contributing members of society.
Thank you. Before we begin, can I get a motion to remove agenda item 9B2, which is a resolution authorizing the non-renewal of employment of certified staff members?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Roop?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Abstain.
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Dr. Coglanese, our Spotlight School.
We have Miss Trish here. Oh, come on up.
We are going to recognize our high school tonight. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marjorie Trish. I am the principal at Crete Monee High School. And this evening, we are the Spotlight School. First of all, we wanted to spotlight our ROTC program, hence they were able to present colors this evening as an opening. This is the first year of our ROTC program, and we're very proud to have 81 students in our program. In addition to our ROTC program, I wanted to spotlight our U.S. history class, where Sarah Valerio is a teacher, and she's going to talk to you about our school who was accepted in a special program to see and participate in Hamilton. So here is Sarah Valerio, our history teacher.
Thank you, Ms. Trish. I do have a PowerPoint that goes along with my presentation as well as a video.
Do you want us to come down there?
Sure. I'm sorry? Oh, it's on the laptop. Yeah, it plays better. Do I use this? Okay. All right, good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you in regards to the Hamilton Education Program. My name is Sarah Valerio. I've been a teacher, social science teacher at the high school for 15 years. On the screen, we have included pictures from that day as well as a video that I'll show you at the end. So just to tell you a little bit about the process, back in November, I applied for the Hamilton Education Program, which was founded and financed by the Gilderman Leham Institute. The program combines primary sources, research, and student performances. After completing all tasks, students have the opportunity to see Hamilton for $10. Our school was approved to participate in January. Then the true work by the students began. Since the curriculum is based on U.S. history and the founding of our country, we decided to open the program to all juniors. The 5 U.S. history teachers had to teach a curriculum based on our founding fathers for 3 to 5 days. Ms. Trish, can you please pass out the curriculum? By using the curriculum given to us by the Hamilton Education Program, the students had to read, analyze primary sources, discuss the author's purpose, point of view, and who the author's audience was. Besides using these booklets provided by the Institute, the students were able to create accounts online and access a lot more sources. After implementing the curriculum, the students were able to take the next step and perform a piece. This piece had to focus on the foundation of our government. They could look at a person, event, or a document based on the founding of our government in our country. It could have been a rap, a skit, a monologue, or a poem. We had a total of 94 students who decided they want to do the performance piece. After researching their topics, the students then had to perform their piece in front of their teachers. We had a total of 70 students perform. We had to submit a hard copy of each student's performance to the Hamilton Education Program. After Hamilton approved, they were able to give us 70 tickets along with 7 chaperone tickets. Hamilton then selected one of our groups to participate in front of the whole program. In the morning, we had a meet and greet session, followed by student performances. There were a total of 30 schools who attended the day we went on March 13th, and they asked 10 schools to perform. The students who performed were Nakia Kenna, Alexis Ayers, and Michaela Wilson. They created a rap called the Whiskey Rebellion. So first we got to watch the student performance, followed by a meet and greet with the cast and crew, and then we got to eat lunch at the Palmer House. Finally, in the afternoon, they were able to see Hamilton. This program was not only well organized by the Hamilton Education Program, but also by CPS Security and the Palmer House. Our students worked very hard in order to be able to go. Many of them had to perform, which is a little bit out of their comfort zone. Many students and parents have expressed that this was once in a lifetime opportunity for a lot of our students. So what I'd like to do now is actually show you the performance from our 3 students.
name is Michaela Wilson.
And my name is Nakia Cannon.
And we're from Crete, Monee. Whiskey.
I'm an American kid living in society, chilling at the bar, trying to spend my money. I got my whiskey bottle sitting right next to me. You know it's one of life's necessities. I'm just a farmer out here trying to get I can't sell $20 for $1 each. Whiskey making all the money as you can see.
Yeah, in the building. Hey, Cam, in the building. No money, no whiskey. Can't buy it, won't get it. Fail, you fail. Try again, I'm jail. It's hard, nothing really dead. I got a story. Little foreign boys dead. Y'all don't need no whiskey. Y'all better focus on life and make it achieve. George Washington, you better pick a side or sit back and enjoy this ride.
Talking about who we tax. I didn't know the bill was right. I said, who is that? They have to say, I told them about him, friend, and they said, okay. I heard y'all trying to put the tax on whiskey, right? Y'all think y'all finna get all my money?
You bet. We tryna fix our difficulties. Cha-ching!
Y'all think y'all finna get away, but we gon' see. Rebel,
You fail.
rebel,
Go to jail.
attack. Not that you want whiskey.
That's what
They wanna rebel. They think that they can do that. I strike them down with that cane, you know I swing at the tap. I read the armor, took it right off my back, and just because of new paper now that action is rap.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job. So this program is available every year that Chicago will have Hamilton, and they've already said it'll be here for another 2 years. So I did apply for next year yesterday. So hopefully we'll hear word about going next year sometime. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, do we have any comments? Dr. Hall, would you like to start?
First, I want to congratulate our junior ROTC members who looked very pristine. Really impressed. I was in the community last week, and one of the community members commented also on their military ball, and I guess he was in attendance. He's a retired vet, and he wanted to make sure that I shared that he was very proud of the young men and women, especially the young ladies, and how they looked. So I want to make sure I shared that as well. The junior ROTC program, long time in the making. For years, we tried to get that program here at Crete Monee. I remember meeting with our Congresswoman, Robin Kelly, and requesting that she would step in and help us get the program because we have been fighting so hard. I believe even before I got on the board, Ms. Laura Hirsch and with others tried very hard to get that program here. So to see it now come into fruition, I'm just excited to see it and to see the young men and women just looking amazing, and me having 3 members of my family that are in or were involved in the military. It's just my heart just patters when I see them. So congratulations, Ms. Trish, on that program. Hamilton, me and Ms. Hirsch over here saying we wish we could have seen Hamilton for $10. A program, a play that has gained a lot of recognition, and I'm just excited that they have their education program and they involve our students. We have very talented students, and to see them perform in front of lots of people, I just think that was awesome. Thank you, Ms. Valerio. I've been knowing you too, and thank you for your passion for helping our students. I really appreciate it. Being a history buff myself, getting excited when I see it modernized and our kids enjoying it and throwing themselves into it. That's just wonderful to see. So congratulations to you and your hard work, and to the students. And the 70 students that got to go, I'm sure it was a pure treat, as well as the 7 chaperones that got to go as well. So thank you all.
Again, I say thank you as well for the ROTC and that program, and being disciplined, teaching the kids discipline, and many other value attributes and characteristics that come out of the program. So thanks for all that was involved, and thank you, Ms. Trish, and all that had anything to do with the theatrical of our kids, the theater. I did go see this play, Hamilton, and I did not know that they rapped back in the 1700s all the way to now. I thought it only started in 1970s, but I guess it carried on way back from there.
Well, they say Shakespeare was a rapper.
Oh, no, I cannot attest to that. So thanks for all you do. Thank you.
I'd like to start also with the NJROTC. I was fortunate enough to attend the pass and review and was just amazed at how far they've come in such a short period of time. So it was a very proud moment for the school, I think, and I can't wait to see what else we can do. So far as Hamilton, 7 chaperones. Didn't I respond quick enough? Really? For $10? I mean, I was Johnny on the spot with that response. What happened? I want to thank you. That was great. And I like them, would have loved to have seen it for $10, but to see them on here, even though it was a little grainy, was even better than that little clip that we were able to see on our phones or whatever. So very, very proud of where a lot of these extracurriculars and regular classes are going. We have some real talent out there in our students, and it's great to see it blooming, and that we have teachers and staff that are encouraging it. I'm sure that this was an out of their realm thought that they'd ever do this, and for you to just bring them along to that point is amazing. So to everyone involved for both programs, thank you very much.
Again, with the ROTC, that was very impressive. And having grown up in a military family, it just brought back memories and put chills up my spine to see that young men and women with that much discipline and that much confidence. That's really impressive. And as for the Hamilton, that's great. And, I know I had the opportunity to see it a couple of years ago, and after I went, I had to go back and refresh my memory of the history. So I think it's great that this program gives them the opportunity to have the history before you go see the play, which is tremendous. So thank you very much. Great work.
So let me just echo what everybody else is saying. I really appreciate administration and the teachers working together. Sometimes it's so easy just to keep the status quo because we're all very busy, and to do anything above and beyond just takes so much effort. So thank you for putting forth that effort. I know that's something the kids will always remember, because I also saw Hamilton, and there were so many things I either didn't know or didn't remember, and then went back and looked it up, and I can sing a lot of words to a lot of the songs, which I won't, but I know because of that, it's something that they will always remember. And so thank you so much for doing that.
So I know that all students learn differently. Back when I was young, we had Schoolhouse Rock. Everybody remember Schoolhouse Rock? Well, now they have Hamilton. And I know how much it has enthralled this generation. and that we have teachers and administrators that know how to get the kids involved and how to get them motivated is wonderful. So I'm very proud of the students for what they did. There's no way I could ever have stood on that stage and probably even talked, let alone rapped. So kudos to our students. And Ms. Valerio, thank you very much for doing that and for applying for next year. So I look forward to seeing not only what the students do here in the school for that, but that they get accepted and what they can do next year on stage. So thank you for that. And to our ROTC, I don't know if Petty Officer is still here. It looks like he's probably in the classroom, but I'm very proud of our ROTC kids, not just because my son is one of them, but because I've seen just over the past few months how some of these kids have grown. The things that they're doing outside of school, the volunteer work that they're doing, and they are actually going, not this weekend, but the weekend after, they're going to be doing a college visit. So not only are they doing work in the school and in the community, but they're actually looking forward to college visits and seeing what the future holds for them. So I'm very proud of everybody. Thank you very much, Ms. Trish. Thank you. Okay, I have a couple public comments. The first one is from,
Do we have a timekeeper up here tonight?
Natalie's not here, so we don't. So if you can,
Keep time?
yeah.
5 minutes?
Yeah, because we only have 3, so.
Okay.
Yeshua Crete, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong. I apologize. Jamari Mohammed, do you want to come forward? It's regarding Don't Let Miss Plumley Go. Again, I apologize if I mispronounced your name. So you can, yeah. Can you give us? If you can give us the correct pronunciation, please. Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
Your name.
My name is Jamari Mohammed, and I've been a student here almost my whole entire life.
Excuse me, you need to address your comments to the board,
my
please.
bad.
Thank you.
And I've been here since my freshman year with Miss Plumley. And just Miss Plumley, I know her since my freshman year. She's been teaching us classes like how to read, pronounce words better and stuff like that. And Miss Plumley, she's been real helpful to me, my friends, and other students that she knows. We had other students that wrote a paper about keeping Miss Plumley in the school because we heard about she couldn't stay. So we came today to talk to you guys about keeping Miss Plumley in the school because as students, we really love Miss Plumley and all that she does for us.
Hello, my name is Yehosha Craig. I've been a student here for almost 2 years now. And the reason why I came here is don't let Miss Plumley go is because she is on a personal level, she helped me grow more than what I am today. So I think her as a mother figure, so stuff like that. But at the same time, I think her as somebody that I can come to and talk to if I really need help. So that's what I want to address today on don't let her go. And we need more teachers like her to come and talk to more often than most teachers here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is from Andre Sally Martinez regarding to keep Miss Plumley. Can you please come down to the microphone? Thank you. Welcome.
I really don't need a mic to amplify my voice, but.
You're being recorded, so we do need you
Gotcha.
to. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excuse me for a moment. Wasn't tight. Okay. I'm going to make this brief and try to be as detailed as I could. I support the young man that was up here, as well as my children. Both of my children that are a student here at this high school. Now, I'm going to tell you this, and I really want you all to take this in consideration dealing with Ms. Plumlee. We, my wife and I, we highly recognize her dedication to all the students that she had worked with. And when I mean work with, she had, how could I use the word? She nurtured these students. She helped them to understand their problems to cope with. She had become a strong inspiration to these students. And they highly recognize her as a very important person. She not only helped these children to understand life and their values, but she communicate with parents as well. She has always communicated with us. So, to assure all of you, what is more important? Is it the needs of the children? The best interests of the children? Or is it money situations? I, for one, stand and support Ms. Plumlee, as well as these children here. Of course, there should have been others that she worked with, but I'm going to speak loudly for her. I hope that you all would take this in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Young, regarding strategic planning. Welcome.
Thank you, President Gasparo. Members of the board, staff, and members of the audience. I think this is about the first time since November 2017 I don't see the clock running. So I'll make it brief. I just want to piggyback on the committee of the whole meeting that was held last Tuesday and let you know, President Gasparo, I really appreciate the the intervention that took place, because I did have a conversation with Dr. Congolese, and we spoke on the phone about 50 minutes. And it was quite interesting. Okay, so I look forward to participating in strategic planning, the 2 days that I've been assigned, and I'm still waiting on my invitation. So when I get it, I will officially recognize it as being a participant. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent updates?
Okay, I've just got two today. The first one, I just wanted to publicly state that we will be using April 30th as a board reorganizational meeting. As you know, there are board elections coming at the beginning of the month. And so the new candidates will be installed on that April 30th meeting at 6:30. So we just wanted to make sure that people were aware of that meeting. And the second was just to talk a little bit about the strategic plan update. We're very excited about getting this process started. Our first meeting is going to be this Wednesday. We've got about 64 participants coming. We have done a third, and a third. So a third of it will be staff, a third of it will be administration, and a third of it will be community members. And so that process will start. It's a very lengthy process, very intense process that will be taking place during the day. But we also have a team that's going to be meeting in the evening, 2 evenings, and they have an opportunity to give their input into the strategic plan, as well as take a look at the final document before it actually comes to the board. So anyway, we wanted to just update the community on that. Please follow our website. We have it documented on the website. We will be updating that periodically with minutes and briefings so that people can follow along at home.
Thank you. I have one board update tonight. It is very good to be back here at our home at the high school. I wanted to thank all of our schools that we visited for all of their support and assistance. I also want to thank our IT department, maintenance, and Mr. Thorsky and his tech crew. I know his students traveled with us also. So anybody that was involved in moving our equipment and getting our AV things set up and extra lighting, security, everything that had to happen for us to travel around to the schools, I just wanted to say thank you very much. But I, for one, am glad that we're back here. I loved seeing everything that was happening in the schools, but there's no place like home. So thank you very much. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Moved.
Second.
Dr. Coglonese?
Regular meeting minutes of February 19th, 2019. Regular meeting closed session minutes of February 19th, 2019. Special meeting minutes of March 11th, 2019. Special meeting closed session minutes, March 11th, 2019. Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of March 12th, 2019. Committee of the Whole closed session minutes of March 12th, 2019. And then District Affairs. Okay, District Affairs, approve board policies, section 5 and 8. Curriculum number 1, amend the 2018-2019 school calendar. Last day is June 10th. And business is approve accounts payable, approve payroll, and approve treasurer's report.
Thank you. Discussion? Roll
Yeah,
call.
I have a comment regarding the regular board meeting minutes of February, I believe February 19, 2019. There was an email going back and forth, I believe from you, Ms. Gasparro, regarding a public comment that wanted to be more reflective of the person actually making a public comment. And I think you chimed in on it and basically said that there was not going to be any changes.
No, I didn't say there wasn't going to be any changes. The comment, I did not say there was not going to be any changes. I personally felt that the minutes reflected what was said, and I watched the minutes. If board members would like to chime in, that's your right, if you'd like to make a change. But me personally, after rewatching the video, the change that was requested is not what was said at the meeting.
Okay, did that person come back and after you responded to change it to be more reflective to the meeting?
I don't know. I left work
Okay.
and did not check my
I
email since
just
then.
basically, I would ask that the changes that was, as the public, the person that requested the changes, that they be reflective of those changes that he requested.
The change that he requested was not what was said at the meeting.
He came back, I believe,
I
and
don't know.
asked-
I did not
don't
see
know if
anything.
Terry, that we considered the changes for the second time, that they be reflective in the public comments for the regular board meeting on February 19, 2019. That's what I'm just requesting.
Your comment is noted.
I guess I don't understand what the big pushback is. I've been summarized in the minutes before and did not feel that they were correctly summarized. I contacted Terry. Terry made the adjustments. So I don't understand what the huge pushback is.
I don't have a problem changing the minutes if it's reflective of what happened. The comment that was given did not reflect what happened. He said that he wanted something about a facilities plan and that he said he was for a facilities plan. That's not what was said.
But I think
I don't know.
he acknowledged.
Why fight
that-
it? I just don't.
Yeah, he acknowledged, I believe you said you didn't see it, but he
I did not see
acknowledged that
anything.
he wanted to reverbalize, and that's the comment that I would like to be reflected in the comments of
What
that
was the
particular
comment?
meeting. Terry, did you receive those comments? Did you receive anything regarding this, or Dr. Coglani's? No, anything regarding this conversation?
They may have been sent later in the day.
I stopped looking at my email at 5 o'clock, so things came back at 5 o'clock, I did not see it.
When minutes are taken, it's pretty much subjective if you're summarizing and it's not verbatim. I just don't understand what the huge pushback is. If the person felt his sentiments were not captured the way that
I have no
he thought they
problem if the
should be.
sentiments are not captured. However, he wanted them changed to something that is not what happened. I rewatched the
didn't read-
video.
That's not what I got from the email.
Okay. I rewatched the video and I said in my email to him that that is not what you said. You did not say anything about the facilities plan and the changes that he wanted. It's semantics at this point.
Well,
I mean,
And really,
if the
I
board would
mean-
like to make the change, the email was sent to the entire board. If the board decides they want the minutes changed, that's fine. That's not up to me. Everybody got the email.
It's not up to you. I would have given it back to Terry, and she could have had a conversation with him because she's in charge of doing the minutes. I just don't really get the pushback at all.
Any other board comments?
No, I would just add that, the minutes of our board, this board meeting is held in the public, but it's not a public meeting. And so I think it should be reflective. If a board member has a comment about something they said or didn't, we should make the changes. But I don't think we should, unless it's grossly misrepresented, we're not making every change that somebody has when we publish this. So I'm not for it.
Any other comments?
Quite honestly, I only saw one email and I never saw a reply. So I'm not even sure what these
Yeah.
other things are that anyone's talking about.
I had a personal reply to Mr. Morgan.
Well, obviously other people know.
I don't
but-
know if anybody
yeah, I
else
don't-
replied.
I
Did
don't know
anybody
about
else
it.
reply? We all got the email.
I'm just saying I got the original one and then I never heard anything about an outcome. So obviously other people know some other stuff, but
I don't know.
so I can't
How?
comment on it.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit more sensitive to it because I've been in that situation where my thoughts were summarized and they were not what I felt I was conveying. So this is going out to the public. People can be sensitive about that. I just don't understand why not just change it. It's not like somebody said.
I guess it's not a precedent that I would like to open up to have. I think if any of the 7 board members have an issue with any of the comments or I would summarize, you're summarized, we should make that change. But I think we're setting a bad precedent if we open it up that way.
Well, we've changed even the public. We had somebody come here and basically accuse a teacher of something, and the way it was written was as if the teacher did it. And we had to change that. So I don't think it should be, preferential for board members. It's just
Well,
rightfully
opinion, that's
reflect
fine.
what was said.
Anybody else? Is it the pleasure of the board to change the minutes to reflect the second comment, which I did not get? Do we have any idea what
I
that
haven't
is?
seen the comment, so the change, so I can't comment on it.
Right, me neither. And I would say without seeing it, like Nelson said, if it wasn't a gross misrepresentation, the example Dr. Hall gave was a gross misrepresentation. If that was the case, it was completely different. But in this, having not seen it, I really can't comment.
Terry, at what point can we go back and amend minutes after the fact?
Well, they have not been approved yet.
But if we don't have the comments, if we approve them now, can we change the minutes later with the motion? At another board meeting?
I believe that it would have to be it would have to be listed in the minutes that the board had a discussion about revising previously approved minutes.
In the discussion at another meeting?
Well, yes, these haven't been approved yet, so
But if we pass this motion, they will be approved.
correct.
Or it can be removed.
I'm sorry?
It can be removed.
Just that one item?
Not 8
8A1.
And we can come back to it?
Correct.
If you'd like to remove 8A1 so that we have the opportunity to go back and look at the tape, I'll be happy to do that. But based on your comments, I'm not sure that's going to change my mind.
We'll go ahead and,
Again, I
Go
think
ahead.
this is not our jurisdiction. It's Terry's. She creates the minutes.
And we can vote to accept them or not.
yeah, right, yeah. Terry can't make changes to something that was sent out without some guidance.
I'm saying she has not, have you given input on the matter at all?
No, I haven't. I did discuss it with Dr. Coglanese, but she and I both agreed that it is up to the board as to what you want listed in the minutes. It's not up to me. That after I received that email from the member of the public, I did go back and watch the video from last month, and which is against all unwritten rules about when a person does minutes. You shouldn't depend on a video in order to grab, verbatim statements. If someone wants to,
Unless there's an issue. I mean, that's,
unless it's an issue, if someone wants to be quoted, then it is suggested that they present a prepared statement, enter a prepared statement, and I would attach it to the minutes.
okay.
In the situation where you've called me before, I've only ever been called by board members or questioned by board members. I have never received anything from any member of the public. So
Right.
this
But
was
before,
new
when
to
it was a
me.
public issue, it was brought to you by a board member.
Pardon me?
The example I gave, it was brought to you by a board member, which was me.
I don't recall that, but I'm not questioning it. I certainly will take your word for it. I just don't remember it, but.
Terry, I was going to say, Terry's the board secretary, and so the board, if you choose to revise the minutes, she will revise the minutes, but we need that direction from you as a board.
I suggest we just pull that item for right now. We can I can look at the email that we received and I'll forward it to the entire board and we can vote on it next month. Is that the pleasure of the board?
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that.
Yes.
Okay. We need a motion. We already have a motion on the floor. That was, so Janine, you made that motion, I believe. Would you like to rescind your motion and then we can make another one?
Do I have to rescind it or can I just reword it?
It has to be rescinded.
Rescind.
And you,
Okay.
would you like to rescind your motion?
Yes, I will rescind it.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of 8A1, regular meeting minutes of February 19th, 2019?
Moved.
I will
Second.
Okay. Any other comments? Roll call?
Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mrs. Gasparo?
Nay. Thank you, motion carries. Action reports. Business, Ken?
Thank you, President Gasparo. The one item that's on the agenda is for approval of a proposal to supply milk for our school district. As I shared with the board, we went out to bid for this. We did get one reply for our bid, which is really not out of the ordinary just because of the number of companies that do this. There's not a lot of them. However, the bid that we did receive back was from the same vendor we have right now, P&M Distributors, and their costs came down from this year's cost. So we're estimating it's going to save the school district approximately $67,000 for the year. So we're very pleased with that. I will also let the board know that not only does it include the milk, it does include everything that goes along with that, including delivery, pickup.
Cows?
The
cows?
The cows too, if you wish, for some fresh milk. Some refrigeration equipment and to maintain that, along with any repairs and maintenance to that equipment. So it is an all-inclusive price that we're pleased to recommend to the board.
You can make it bigger.
Oh, that's right.
Technology to you.
What's the name of the vendor?
The name of the vendor is P&M Distributors.
P&M Distributors.
So it would be a motion to accept the proposal of P&M
Yeah.
Distributors.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the milk bid from P&M Distributors for the 2018-19 school
No.
year?
No.
1920.
19, that's right, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong sheet. 1920. Can I get a motion to approve the milk bid for P&M Distributor for the 2019-20 school year?
Moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Human Resources. Can I get a motion to approve the certified staff employment, certified staff leave of absence, certified staff return from leave of absence, certified staff resignation, certified staff intent to retire, educational support staff employment, educational support staff leave of absence, educational support staff reassignment, educational staff return from leave of absence, and educational support staff resignation?
Moved.
I will second it. Mr. Neal.
Thank you. Personnel report reads as follows. Certified staff employment, Tara Fountain. Certified staff leave of absence, Kayla Anderson, Victoria McAndrew, and Susan Zasharsky. Certified staff return from leave of absence, Kelly Peterson. Certified staff resignation, Samantha Cravens, Dennis Gatherright, Ephraim Haymore, Gerald Kissel, Lisa Plumley, Angela Verdi, Robert Welch. Certified staff intent to retire, Susan Cole and Linda Nelson. Educational support staff employment, Deborah Curtis, Dwayne Price, and Yolanda Woods. Educational support staff leave of absence, Leslie Glass, Cheryl Heinlein, Bridget Johnson, Thomas Matthews, Stephen Timmons, and Samantha Zakowitz. Educational support staff return from leave of absence, Lauren Matthews, Stephen Timmons. Educational support staff reassignment, Lori McKee and Emma Rigo. An educational support staff resignation, Nedra Berkeley, Takesia Campbell, Sherry McNeil Garner, Dina Rigo, and Tanara Washington. And that ends the personnel report.
Thank you. Questions? Roll call?
Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Nay.
Mr. Brown?
Present.
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution for the honorable dismissal of certain teachers based on economic necessity?
So moved.
I will second it. Mr. Neal?
Thank you. This is an annual resolution we do. These individuals are either serving in a long-term subbing capacity or they're permanent guest teachers. And they all, of course, can be rehired should positions be open in the fall. So those affected are Thomas Naglak, Stephanie Wilcoxon Jenkins, Lisa Nolan, Catherine Benefield, Randall Dunlap, Erica Hamilton, Morgan Smith, Kathy Massey, Florence Morales, Sarah Tedeschi, Raymond Wright, Matthew Baloris, Yolanda Perry, and Greg Barksdale.
Thank you. Questions?
Could you actually define, in your words, economic necessity as it relates to?
Well, as it relates to
staff?
these particular positions, it's essentially for those who are filling in a long-term assignment, if we don't release them, then they continue in employment, and we don't necessarily need them because the person who they're filling in for will return at the end or at the beginning of the next year. So it's economic necessity is the legal term that's used, but essentially we would be paying for two people for one position, and that's not what we intended to do in the beginning. They took the job knowing the terms and that it would end at the end of the year. As far as our permanent guest teachers on an annual basis, we release them. It gives us the option of making the determination whether we're going to continue to have permanent guest teachers on an annual basis, and it also interrupts the service so that they don't achieve tenure.
Do we enter into a contract on an annual basis with each and every one of these staff members? So what? Is it a contract?
If we rehire, yes, we'll enter into another,
a one-year contract?
quasi-agreement with them. We don't actually have a signed contract from these individuals. They're hired on usually on a temporary basis to fill in for a specific reason or to fill in as a permanent guest teacher.
So can we, or have we before used the phrase economic necessity prior to the year ending and discharge these people?
For these particular positions, yes, we use that on an annual basis to release those positions.
But prior to the year ending, 6 months into the school year?
Well, because they are, in some cases, licensed personnel, we have to release them and notify them of release at least 45 days prior to the end of the school year to meet school code.
Okay.
Did we do this in March last year or April last year?
We either did it in March or April last year.
Depending on the meeting dates?
Correct, to meet the deadlines.
For clarity, so I'm looking at Exhibit A that's attached. So I'm looking at one teacher, I think 13 permanent guest teachers.
Correct.
With the permanent guest teachers, because they're full-time, they receive benefits, correct?
They do not receive benefits at this time. They're contracted for, I believe it's 5 hours and 45 minutes a day. So they're under the 30-hour limit.
They're under the 30 hours.
Yes.
You said 5 hours and what?
I believe it's 5 hours and 45 minutes a day. I can get the exact amount of time, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Because that's not under 30, if it's 5. Is it 5?
Yes.
Okay.
6 would be
Right,
30.
okay, gotcha. So no benefits. Do we know what this total cost is?
Not off the top of my head, but I believe these positions are around, I'll have to get you a number, but I know that it's in the 100 to 120,000 range. But I'll have to get you an exact number.
Plus the cost of whoever they're replacing if that person comes back. So that's where the economic necessity comes in.
Well, the
correct?
permanent guest teachers are housed in each school, and they're the first people who are asked to fill in when a teacher's not present. They often also do take long-term assignments because they're familiar with the building procedures and maybe the classrooms that they're involved in. It gives the buildings at least somebody on staff that is always there to fill in wherever needed. We have 5 of these at the high school, I believe 4 at the middle school, and each other building has at least one. I believe ELC has another half-time person because they have a grant to cover it. And we, on an annual basis, we release them. Typically, they get hired back It's just, it's a step we take to give us the flexibility to be able to make decisions that we aren't prepared to make just yet.
And when do we determine, so prior to the school year starting, we will determine who the permanent subs will be, correct?
Correct. If we're going to, some of these individuals may be hired back before the end of the school year or early in the summer. Others may move on to other positions where they get full-time teaching opportunities and those types of things. So we may not get some of these individuals back if they have an opportunity to move into something more lucrative for them, but many of these individuals will probably be back next year.
And they're salaried.
They have a
Not
daily
per
rate.
day.
Daily rates.
It's a daily rate.
It is a daily,
Yes.
so it is a daily rate.
Yeah, they're substitutes.
And I can't remember, do we have the progressive scale for daily rates?
For,
After
not
so
for
many
not for
days?
permanent guest teachers. That's the trade-off for being a permanent guest teacher. You're guaranteed
'Cause you
employment
get
every day,
every day.
but it's a steady rate.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call?
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Abstain.
Dr. Hall?
Present.
Mrs. Roop?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye. Thank you, motion carries. Old business, discussion of employees' request to rescind retirement letters. Dr. Coglanice, I know you sent some information out to us. Would you care to summarize it for us?
Yeah. Mr. Neal, do you want to go ahead and highlight some of the points?
Well, what had been requested at the Committee of the Whole was, first of all, some information on what the retirement incentives are. And so at the beginning of the information that was sent, there is a chart comparing the two incentives that the district offers. One is under the CMEA contract, which is for certified employees. The other one is under the ACME agreement, which is for non-certified employees. The primary difference between the two sets of employees is that in CMEA, they're in the teacher retirement system, which has some very strict rules about what can and cannot be done with people who will receive retirement from them. And IMRF is the other pension system for the non-certified staff. They also have some strict rules, but not nearly as strict as TRS. You can see the comparison of the various requirements and conditions and so forth, so that I don't necessarily need to go over each one individually. The primary difference begins when we get down to the salary increase per year. Up until June 30th of 2018, both incentives were allowed to offer 6%. Now, we are allowed to continue offering the 6% under CMEA until the CMEA agreement expires, which is one day before students begin school in the fall. Actually, in accordance with that agreement, the last one we could accept would be August 1 of 2019. So after that point, under current law, as it stands now, we would no longer be allowed to offer the 6% to any future individuals entering a retirement agreement. And the cap on TRS is 3%. And at this time, we have not negotiated what the incentive will look like with CMEA because we're in collective bargaining with them now. So this is in place till the end of the contract. From there forward has not been determined at this point. Okay. IMRF is not bound by that. IMRF remains at 6% for the duration of the ACME agreement, at which time it'll be renegotiated. To go further, there is a post-retirement severance that for both essentially is for 4 years or until Medicare eligibility, whichever comes first. And then just a couple of other things. If somebody enters the 4-year pipeline, they are allowed to retire early if they choose. They want to retire after 2 or 3 years. Obviously, they're not going to get the remaining compensation, but one difference is that under CMEA, they would continue to get the retirement severance pay, that 4 years of payments, or until Medicare eligibility, which they would not get under ACME. ACME specifically prevents that if they retire early. Otherwise, The plans are relatively similar, and of course, all the other conditions of employment apply. They can still be dismissed for poor performance or those types of things. So that's essentially a summary of what the plans are. The one thing to keep in mind, both pensions, if we increase somebody more than 6% on average for their last 4 years of employment, there are penalties to pay. And for TRS, those penalties can get very significant. And
Can I just?
Yes.
For clarification, you said increase the salary more than 6%. It doesn't necessarily have to be the salary, right? It could be a cumulative on.
Other than extra duty pay.
Yeah, with the exception of insurance, I believe, right? And
Well,
benefits.
insurance and benefits are not included in that. This is just,
Yeah, but if you have somebody that's never done extra duty pay and all of a sudden they start coaching two things and have extra duty for other things, yeah, that
That
could.
can ramp up real quick.
Basically, any type of compensation.
Right.
it's what's called creditable earnings. And
Creditable
basically, what happens for a CMEA member is when they determine that they're going to enter this pipeline, what we do is we take them off of all salary schedules, their salaries for all positions held, everything they do, if they have summer school, if they are coaching, if they're doing supervision, if they are doing anything, then that's all lumped into their salary. And they get one salary figure with all those in it. And they're obligated to do those things for us, but they're not going to be listed separately any longer. Then the 6% increases take place on that amount going forward. They can't take on anything new. And if they stop doing something, then we remove the pay for whatever they stop doing and recalculate from there. So we have had people who have just said, I cannot continue doing this. I just don't have the energy for that, whatever reason. And we've just recalculated from there. So their amounts actually decrease if that occurs. So there are things that can be done, but it's not allowed to go up above the 6%. Anything over 6% would have a penalty based on how, on a number of factors. And that, it's hard to say exactly what that penalty will be because as you can see from the narrative, there's a lot of factors that go into that.
I heard that penalty is pretty harsh, could be pretty harsh.
It can be. I mean, I think our past experience, and usually we don't have, it's hard to completely avoid it. If you have somebody go into the incentive and then retire after 2 years, if they had one of their last 4 years before they went in the incentive be a little over, there might be a little penalty. And those penalties tend to be about $10 on the dollar. So if you have $100 over, that could be, a $1,000 penalty, that kind of thing.
I thought I heard you say the penalty accrues at over 6%. It's over 3%.
Well, it's over 6% currently in our plan, okay. But once our contract with CMEA expires, then it drops to 3% for us.
Got it.
Because it's not applicable to anything it's not applicable to anything prior to June 30, 2018.
It's the date was 6/30, so it's 7/1 of 18. It went into effect, but if we had an agreement in place at that point, it was grandfathered in.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
I did give an example. I'm sorry, was there another question? I did give an example on, I believe it's on 320, if I'm not mistaken. And I just gave a sample employee and I showed some figures going through if they started with a certain salary and then with the incentive, if they entered the incentive, they would get the 6% increases. If they did not, I gave a sample of if the district was giving a 3% annual increase, just for the sake of doing the math here. And as you can see, we have a salary cost difference. In the first example of the $80,000 employee from CMEA, the salary cost would be $10,958. The post-retirement severance would be $16,000 for a total of $26,958. That employee retires, a new employee comes in at the starting pay of $41,600. That difference in salary there pays for that incentive, okay, in that first year. And then obviously following that, then now we have a lesser employee cost because we have a lower cost employee in the position.
Assuming you hire a teacher with less experience.
Correct. So that's, and assuming that, I don't think we have any possibility of hiring a teacher at $80,000, but we're going to hire somebody less expensive. So how long it takes for that incentive to pay for itself would vary depending on what the new employee would cost. But if it's a starting salary employee, you see what the effect is there. So that just gives you an example of why a retirement incentive is put into place, primarily to save money in the long run. It may not save it right now, but in the long run, you're going to save more than you spend to move that employee out a little sooner than they might have gone otherwise. Okay. Now, what we have had, the reason this all
Lyle,
came.
can I stop you for a second? 'Cause
Absolutely.
I got confused now. The CMEA, the 6% until 6/30/18. So somebody that turns in their intent to retire now, 4 years from now, are they getting that 6%?
They can
I
still
think I
get-
got confused by what you were saying.
They can still get the 6% because they entered in under a grandfathered contract.
Okay, so, okay.
And they can get the 6% under that contract for 4 years because that contract was grandfathered in. Okay,
But that
because
contract ends. at
basically
end
the
of school
collective
year.
bargaining agreements that were in effect on 6/30 get to continue doing what they were allowed to do at the time. The next collective bargaining agreement under current law cannot necessarily reflect the same thing without penalty.
And they have to still meet all these requirements and everything. It doesn't
Correct.
change just because it's coming to an end.
No, they still have to meet these requirements. So somebody can't go 5 years early and do this. They would have to meet the requirements.
Okay, and then nothing, looks like Acme though is like there's no end to theirs. Theirs is just flat.
There's no change at this time because the law does not apply to IMRF employees. The law only applies to TRS employees.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
But now you want to talk to us about non-union.
Well, essentially, the reason this came up was we had 2 non-union employees who are in the 4-year pipeline to retire, who have had a change in circumstances and wish to revoke essentially their irrevocable letter, which is legal to do if the board chooses to do so. So the question that came up in the committee of the whole was, was the board even willing to consider that before the administration made a recommendation? What the board asked was for some information. And so the first part of that information I've just gone over, okay? The next thing that was requested was some information on what would be the criteria to consider somebody for such an option if we were willing to do so, and under what terms would they be allowed to continue working since they're coming off of a retirement incentive? How does that work? So essentially what you can see is we have some criteria that have been put together. This, of course, would be something that we can discuss further. However, under the criteria, one piece of this is you have to be a non-union employee. Under our current collective bargaining agreements, we don't have a mechanism to revoke an irrevocable letter. Okay, so once they enter, they're in it. So if that would change in a collective bargaining agreement as the result of something like this and the board would agree to that, then obviously this would apply to a union, but it does not apply to union at this time. It would have to be a hard to fill position, which is defined there as one of several things, which could be a position that receives very few applicants. Right now it's defined as 3 or fewer. We do have some categories of position that you just can't find a replacement for easily. A position which would require us to negotiate a higher salary to get an employee, and/or a position that requires specific training skills or experiences that we don't commonly find in new employees. Okay. So they would meet those 3 requirements. There to be in the incentive, non-union, and in a hard-to-fill position. And there would have to be a qualifying event, a reason for this change. Why am I changing my mind? I agreed to go in here. What's causing this? So there are a number of qualifying events, and this mirrors some of the qualifying events that are in the CMEA agreement as well. And so if they have to have meet the criteria and have a qualifying event. If those would be met, yes, ma'am.
Can you explain what significant change in employment
Well, a significant
conditions
change
is?
would be, it could be any number of things. And again, we can define this however we want, but essentially it could be that there is a high rate of turnover, and my remaining might be in the best interest of the districts because I have institutional memory. I have things that can help the new person coming in. Those types of things, that could be a significant change. Another one could be a significant change in the terms of the employment, the duties that are being performed. Those types of things, we can define that further however we like, but it gives us an opportunity to examine the situation as a whole.
Okay, so who's going to decide that that's a significant change to employment conditions?
Well, the administration would make the recommendation. Ultimately, would be the board's decision to accept that recommendation or decline that recommendation.
Okay, so if somebody's deciding to do this, you're going to talk amongst yourselves and then bring it to the board?
Correct.
And at that point, would you be telling us why you felt that way?
Absolutely, we would.
So that we would know?
We can also, we may need to go into closed session to discuss some detailed things about a particular individual, but certainly we would discuss the reasons for bringing the recommendation forward. And again, this is if the board indicates it's willing to do this.
Would we get some sort of a matrix or something with a checklist that said, they've met this criteria, this criteria?
We would show that they meet the criteria. We would show that most likely a
So that it's
checklist of some
consistent.
kind, yes.
I just want to make sure that it's consistent and we're
Correct.
treating every employee the same way that comes to us. with
Absolutely.
this. So, okay.
I'm a little, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Doc.
I need clarity. So you have a section labeled criteria and another section qualifying events. The criteria section says the requesting employee must. So my interpretation is if the requesting employee, if none of the listed situations applies to the requesting employee, then qualifying events wouldn't even
Correct.
be applicable. Yeah.
They have to meet the criteria and have a qualifying event. They have
So
both. Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
It needs to be
Oh,
a
I'm sorry,
somewhat
I saw it
high
up
bar,
there.
or we open a floodgate for anybody to just say, I want my 6%, then I'm just going to keep working. And we don't want that to happen either.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's what I was gonna allude.
I do see it now in the first sentence. So they have to, specific criteria must be met and one or more qualifying events must be present.
Correct.
So I'm sorry, you finished. So what if a person, again, gonna give you this scenario that I think I might have brought it out at the last committee meeting. What if a person go ahead and put in their paperwork to go ahead and retire, say I'm going to retire in 4 years, and they get the 6% every year, but in the third year, they decide, or the fourth, and say, hey, I want to rescind. So those 3 to 4 years or however many years, they get the additional bump from wherever they were to 6%. Where can we recoup this money? Can we? Do we have anything in place to say, and I said like tuition reimbursement at my job. They pay for tuition reimbursement, but you know what? We're paying for your tuition reimbursement, but you have to work at least 5 years or whatever amount of years. If you don't, you're going to have to pay us that money back.
Correct. And that would take us to the next page.
Okay, I can't see this button. 6.
That's okay. I can go over it if you like.
Oh, okay.
So with somebody coming in under this, what would happen going forward is that they would essentially continue in their employment. They would retain their seniority, they would retain their benefits, leave accumulations, those types of things. their pay would be frozen until the difference in the raises is made up. So basically, as the rest of the employees continue to get increases, this employee would not get any further increases until the raises caught up to this employee. So most likely, the employee is going to have to stay for a number of years to make up that difference. Now, that's what's being recommended. Of course, we can discuss that even more, but the idea would be they wouldn't just continue getting raises from where they were after getting the big increases.
Yeah, I just think we need to fine tune that a little bit.
Absolutely, we can discuss that. This was just information that the board had requested, and certainly we can go back and discuss and tweak if necessary.
We can have this put back on the agenda again for the next meeting,
Absolutely.
the whole meeting.
And
There was no
the
action tonight, it was just an update.
The final thing is that, of course, they would not be eligible to go back into any incentive that might be offered in the future. So they would go forward from there, and when they decided to retire, they would just end their employment, and then that would.
So even a person in the 1 to 3 year range, or in years 1 to 3, if they rescinded, came back, they would not be eligible again to go into that pipeline?
As we've described it here, no, they would not.
And this really only affects anybody that's already in the pipeline right now or chooses to go into the pipeline between now and August 1st.
Well, if we're talking about non-union employees, this could be any non-union employee in whichever incentive they're in.
Right.
If they're certified, then yes, you're correct. If they're non-certified, that continues right now, at least for the time being.
Okay, thank you. Terry, can we make sure this is put back on the agenda for
Okay.
March committee, of the whole meeting? Thank you. Any other old business? New business?
I have a couple of new businesses. I believe I shared before that I've been a part of an effort to help our children that are experiencing youth violence and to help with proactivity, with helping our students make better choices when it comes to any form of violence inside of school as well as outside of school. Me, along with a few other people, created the South Suburban Youth Coalition in response to recent activities of violence amongst the schools. And we've been having gaining a lot of track on that. I want to thank Dr. Coglanese for coming to our last meeting and sharing some of the things that we're doing here in Crete, Monee. The whole thought is to create a coalition of sorts of school districts, municipalities, and law enforcement agencies to come together to work together, I should say, to help our students make better choices, our young people inside of school and outside of school.
What was the name of it again?
South Suburban Youth Coalition.
Thank you.
I want to say, too, that we've been working with our legislators. We attempted to file a bill that would require conflict and dispute resolution training in schools in accordance with the SEL standards, the social and emotional learning standards. And so we had conversations with our legislators, mainly Anthony DeLuca, and we met with him and discussed some of our concerns and issues in our communities and in our schools. And when they looked to file the bill, we were already past the deadline for that. So what he did do was he filed a resolution. It was filed today. It is House Resolution 204, I believe. 203. And so if you want to look that up, you can look at it. Myself and another person actually wrote the language of the bill. And basically, it's encouraging Crete, Rich Township schools, Bloom Township schools, and all feeder school districts to adopt a policy where conflict resolution will be taught in our schools. I know a lot of our schools are already doing that, but we do have some schools that are not. And so it's a strong urging for the schools to do that, as well as to build partnerships with our local law enforcement agencies and municipalities. So you all can go on there and read the details of the bill. So we're excited about that. Our next meeting is March 25th, this Monday, coming up at 7 o'clock. It's at Crossroads Church in Sauk Village. Our meetings have been attended by numerous parents, students. Last meeting, we had representation from all 3 high school districts. Dr. Coglanese, Dr. Thomas over for Rich Township, as well as Dr. Like from Bloom Township. All 3 have been affected in some way by gun violence. Rich Township, unfortunately, has had a lot of students they've lost this year alone. But we're coming together to determine solutions that will help our kids, like I said, make better choices. I wanted to also commend Rochelle with the work that she's doing with our local municipalities and working with our mayors and sharing this information with them, because we have to build collaborations with our communities. A lot of times they have information that we don't have. A lot of times we have information they don't have. And I think coming together fills those gaps of information, voids of information that's out there. So I want to commend you and your efforts for doing that. But like I said, the next meeting is March 25th, and I hope to see some of you all out there. And then my last one was I attended, I think all of you know that I'm on the professional review panel for the funding formula. So our quarterly meeting was this week. So I attended that in Springfield the other day. I'm getting confused with my days yesterday. So a lot of discussion about this funding formula and, you know, some things that have been left out of the formula, particularly our regional safe schools. There was not money allocated for that. So a lot of discussion around that, a lot of discussion around evaluating the formula. Is it working? Are we seeing the results we want to see? Are we seeing student outcomes improve? Of course, it's too early to really tell that. Another issue that has come up is apparently with the distribution of funds to CPS, Chicago Public Schools, they've actually taken the money and divided it evenly across students. So each student is allocated the same amount of money, which is actually contrary to the whole thought of the funding formula. It's about being equitable and not equal. So because you have some schools that need more than others. So that's an issue that has recently come up. And I sat on a panel last week as a representative of the state panel and heard from teachers who had concerns that they felt like the new money was not reaching the classrooms. I've also asked them to consider, when we're talking about money that goes towards our children, nobody's talking about the thousands of dollars that the teachers actually pay out of their pocket. It's going into the classroom. We hear property taxes, we hear the state, federal dollars, private dollars, but not what our teachers are putting in. So I'm hoping to push for that, where we can actually see how much money our teachers are having to put in because they don't have what they need or because they just care about our kids and are willing to do it. I do also want to say that part of the mission of the panel is to look at the spending of all districts. And the way they do that is they look at the annual finance report. So I get in this meeting and they give us the papers and it clearly says at the top, we did not include Crete, Monee, and East St. Louis because we don't have that data.
Correct.
So I'm sitting in the meeting pretty upset because that's something we should have had done. And two, who wants to be the lonely two that are out there, you know, just kind of out there like, oh, Crete, Monee didn't do theirs. You know, so that is out there, you know. So our data and information was not included when they averaged out how much is being spent in the districts. And that's important information because that's how the elements were created. We looked at data from all the school districts and we have to recalibrate the formula And if we don't have that information, it kind of throws that off. So I want to push again. We need to make sure that we're doing our annual reports on time. For whatever reason, we discussed that thoroughly at the last meeting, but I just want to push that we don't want to be that isolated district that's known for not doing what we're supposed to do in a timely fashion. So that's the end of mine.
Let me just ask the question, how would that affect the evidence-based funding for us that we get? Is that an annual thing where they determine how much we get? Last year was the first year, right?
Yes.
What did we receive, about 600,000, somewhere around there?
We didn't,
Yeah, last year. We got about 600,000.
It was an extra 600,000 that
Yeah,
we
extra.
received, yes.
So is that going to be affected this time around of us possibly not getting
the
additional
audit
money?
not being completed.
Yeah, would that? Yeah.
The audit does not affect that, but they do use some factors that are within the financial statement in order to determine some things and that. I don't know exactly off the top of my head what those are, but I think as Dr. Hall had said, they are used for some things, but I don't know exactly what those are, but I can find that out.
Yeah, if you
And then
could, to see the
I will.
impact on us when they determine or try to figure out how much money is going to be coming our way.
Sure.
If that's whatever we was not or did not do, that impact us
Did
from
it
receiving
impact any
those
amount,
additional
or did we
funds.
lose any money because
Right.
of that? Yes, and I will check that out. Yes.
Thank you.
Can you give us a quick update on the audit?
I can do that. Let me just pull something because I did want to do that and at least let the public know where we're at with this. As you know, and I shared this also in the board FYI, so I put all those documents there, but what I'm going to do is I'll put a document together that we can put publicly out there within like our agenda, the board agenda and everything, so that it's there.
Maybe we can
So-
just attach it to this meeting under new
Yeah,
business.
so we can do that. So I met today with our third-party consultant, who is Jim White out of White and Associates, who has done all the bank reconciliations and proof of cash for the 17-18 year. That has been complete. Those are all done now. And to give you a recap of those, everything has been reconciled and balanced to 18 cents. So we're there in 18 cents. That's how we are.
Better need to find that.
Out of actually $34 million, when you balance, if you're 18 cents off, I look pretty good. So, or I don't, but everybody else does, but it was good work. There were some adjustments that will have to be made. Those are just normal adjustments that are always made throughout. Whenever you have an audit done or a reconciliation done, you make some adjustments here and there. We have not done anything yet because we've turned that stuff over to the auditor, and we want the auditor to give us all of their adjustments at the same time, and then we'll make those adjustments to the system. All the transactions, if you remember, we reported to the board about transactions from April of 2018 for $330,000 that originally were not sent. Those have all been included in the reconciliation and the proofs of cash, everything proved out, and that I can tell you with 100% certainty, there is no evidence of any fraudulent activity or fraudulent transactions or inappropriate transactions in any way, shape, or form.
Where did the 18 cents go?
In your pay.
To the milk bid.
And that. So some next steps, just to let you know where we're at now. I do have the auditors coming on site tomorrow. They've been turned over all of this information from our consultant. So they are coming on site tomorrow to do some testing on cash and bank reconciliations. So they'll be doing that and then finalizing their work on the audit. I don't have a date from them yet, but I will get that when I meet with them tomorrow just to see where we're at with everything and that. They'll be completing the annual financial report. They're the ones that have to do that. They do that along with their audit report. So once they have that, I'll get a date for that, and then they'll also be presenting that to the board. Okay. At the same time, I'm going to be talking to them about beginning work on this year's audit. So we've already started the process. I have put in the FYI, Mr. Brown had asked about this at our committee of the whole about an update of where we are with the action plan. I put that in the FYI also, so you can pull that up and see what the status is of that and all those various steps. We're working on all of that, and we're moving forward on that, and I feel confident everything will be done and everything will be taken care of. Our goal again next year is, again, we're going to start working on the audit now, and we should have that done. Our goal is to have that done by October or November.
Real
you.
quick, how much did we expend on the consultant at Miller Cooper?
It's not with Miller Cooper. With
That's
Miller Cooper is our auditors, but the consultant,
The
Mr. Brown,
consultant, who is
is
that?
White and Associates.
Yeah.
Jim White in that. We're at about $7,000 right now. I'll be getting about a final bill. We estimated it to be about $600 to $6,500. There was some extra work that needed to be done with a couple of accounts with the payroll liabilities and that he undertook.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
I just wanted to finally say, I'm not sure if you all saw the governor's address. We've pushed for additional funds to be added to education allocation. And because we know that it's going to literally take about $7 billion to get every school district to adequacy. So we know that's kind of unrealistic. So every year we just push for additional dollars to be added to the budget for education. And he has basically said 345 million additional dollars. It's no surprise that our state is basically in a bad financial situation. We have billions of dollars in bills that need to be paid. However, I'm glad that the money for education has seemed to been a priority, in the last couple of years, especially in comparison to previously when we were either not getting paid or it was prorated or it was late. So I'm glad to see that the overall sentiment in Springfield is let's put more money into education, at least what we feel like we can afford to do. So I just want to point that.
Any other new business? Go ahead.
I have one, and it's going to involve Dr. Clark. Yesterday, she and I and a couple other members of the safety team went down to Beecher High School for a training by Beacon Training, I believe it was. And we're here in one piece. It's a miracle. They really put us to the grills yesterday. So if you wouldn't mind, I would prefer that you give the recap of what that session was all about, please.
Sure, no problem. So yesterday, and you will see this in next week's FYI, we went to a training called eBirds, and what we learned basically was how to do more barricades, how to assist when we have someone, I really hate to say these words, but have been shot and bleeding out. We learned how to apply tourniquets, pressure points to stop the bleeding, it was just gory. How to look at stab wounds if we had to start a clotting, how to apply gauze into the wound, towards the bone, towards the heart area. It was just so much information. We learned how to defend ourselves if we had to do so in case we were confronted with a gunman. We were able to experience what gunshots sound like and smell like once they were fired inside of a building. We trained how to get out of a building if someone was able to alert us to the location. It was just your all around experience as if you were actually going through it. And on Good Friday, Beecher is also hosting their first, well, I shouldn't say their first, their round table this year that is going to involve all of their surrounding first responders, which was going to be a great exercise for us. We have been invited, only those that were trained yesterday will be invited to attend. So I'm hoping that at least one of us will be able to attend because, as you know, we're ready to do our first roundtable as well. But the information, like the Alice training, was just so real, even though it wasn't blood squirting in our faces, it was water that was being used. The realization of it all just kind of takes you back to those trainings, and it makes you want to learn and grow so that you are able to do what is needed to be done when these events take place. So the whole idea of this training was to survive, and we got that loud and clear yesterday. So it was an 8-hour training. We got out of there about 8 last night. And it was from a lot of places. A lot of people attended, even from Kankakee area as well. And it was just great working with other districts, seeing what they're doing. It lets us know that we're on the right path of the things that we're doing. And we just want to continue to grow and build our safety program so we can train our students, train our staff, and eventually get to training our community.
I have one last. Today the high school was put on a hard lock. I was getting contacted by parents who were hearing from their kids, and I reached out to Superintendent Coglanese, who was still gathering or getting the information and hadn't had the details. What I'm hearing from parents is they still feel like we're too slow in getting information out. And especially when their kids are panicking and contacting them because they don't know what's going on. And I think a couple of meetings ago, we had a similar incident or something. And I was saying, let's figure out a better way to get information out because we're finding out, I don't know if the other board members knew about it before we got notified as the board, but parents are contacting me and I'm like, I don't know, I'm not sure what's going on.
I got texts from people in the community also, but I always tell them administration is, I'm sure, dealing with it, and their top priority is making sure our kids are safe. So for me, I would rather make sure that you're dealing with the situation than worrying about sending out an email. I mean, I want to make sure that the kids, the students, the staff, and everybody is taken care of, but we do need to get that information out.
Well, my thing with that is, for one, we're board members. We wear a different hat. We can understand versus a person who's just a parent. And then not everybody's dealing with the situation. So somebody, can communicate. At least there is a hard lockdown. We will get back to you and let you know what's going on because they're finding out, but they're hearing from kids. So it's like, what is, really going on?
Right.
Also, I think with it going out late, it gives time. Well, what I'm saying is late. It gives time for the rumoring, and all of that. So I'm suggesting that something goes out. Hey, we know there's an issue. We will get back to you or whatever. Now, what I can say is a couple of the parents that contacted me did talk to administration at the high school and did get responses from them. So, but I couldn't tell them because I wasn't made aware of it. And actually, when I was contacted, I went to my email to see if we had received the email, and we had not. So I think it was a few hours later when something finally came home. And so some parents were upset about that because they're like, oh, I'm just now getting a text message or so.
I can actually speak to that, Dr. Coglanese, if you don't mind. So one of the things we talked about today, because as you know, it was just more than myself that's involved when it comes to incidents such as this. We do have law enforcement, and we do understand that parents, as well as the board, are concerned about what is going on. And I do want everyone to understand that we are doing our best to get that information out as quickly as possible. But to also recognize that we are going to make sure or do our best to make sure that your kids are safe. Because they're our kids, they're my kids, they're your kids. And so that's our first priority. But we did talk about today when we debriefed how we can quickly get information out there. My concern is that giving little information can also lead to more stress. And that's not something that I want to put out there. But even with my debriefing with Dr. Coglanese, just a few lines to get something out to the board, something that she can at least say is under control. But I do worry about those few lines not having enough information to help parents understand that we are keeping your children safe. So I do worry about that. But when we debriefed, it was, let's get more information out there as quickly as possible, even if I'm busy, something that a secretary can just do a quick line to get that information out there.
And just reiterating, we are keeping, the children safe and I mean, you can look at it different ways. I just know that this is what I'm continuously hearing when there is an issue. You know, parents just feel like it's the information just coming too late.
We are constantly looking at how to do better. Cut down our time so that we can get information out more timely. We debriefed today to find out some other strategies to get the information out quickly.
And it was quicker today than I think it has been in the past, so.
Well, again, not trying to create anything new, but we do have a board policy out there regarding the superintendent and the board relationship. And when emergencies occur, how the superintendent ought to respond to the board. So it behooves you, Dr. Coglanese, to go back and look at that board policy and see today's event. Did you follow the proper protocol? I'm not saying you did or did not, but that's why we have policies there.
Absolutely. And that was actually the reasoning, because we were, board members were getting the information way quicker, because we are the quote unquote liaisons to the community, and that's who people will reach out to, first to see if we know something. So that was really why it was put into play.
Right. A point taken, and we are working on that. And I did relay the information as soon as I had something specific for you. I did.
And again, I'm not saying you was late or not,
Yeah.
but this conversation lends itself to go back and review that policy, as well as
Absolutely.
myself. I'm going to go back. And I thought it had the word immediate. When an emergency occurred, immediate, the superintendent is to immediate notify the board. And I like to use the word immediate as it was defined to me from the powers to be outside of this environment right here, is the next thing you do.
And the other thing I was going to share probably in my weekly updates is we just redefined, if for some reason I can't get to my email, then I'm going to appoint either Terry or Rochelle or somebody within my cabinet to send you the email themselves if I can't get to it.
Yeah, because I think that's been done previously.
Yes.
And it's not really about having all the details. It's
It's
just
something.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
110%.
We're all on the same page with that.
Any other new business? Okay, we do have a need to go into closed session. There will be no action taken. When we get back, we will just be adjourning. Can I get a motion to go into closed session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, as well as to discuss pending or potential litigation?
So move.
Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye. Thank you. I don't expect this to take longer than 45 minutes, but again, we will not be taking any, taking any action when we're adjourning. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mr. Brown? Aye. Dr. Hall? Mrs. Ruth?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Thank you. We are adjourned.